Hey, welcome back to another episode of Ask Matt, where people ask me questions and I answer them. I'm Matt. I am a co-owner and partner at Titan, which is a web development consultancy that works with Laravel, Vue, and React. O'Reilly, author of Laravel Up and Running, and open source teacher and kind of thinker guy. So the latest question I got was from Jonas Erlandson, and he says, "I would love to hear you talk about how your hiring procedures work at Titan. Do you do test assignments to determine level of skill, or do you look at existing code the applicant has done before? It would be great for new developers to understand too, I think. Thanks." Thanks. So, all the above and quite a bit more. One of the things that's really important for me in hiring is to recognize the fact that we don't care about a lot of the computer sciencey things that like linked lists on whiteboards tell you about. For a lot of reasons. One, because we don't tend to do those things as a part of our day-to-day work. Second of all, because there's a million things proving that those are not actually useful questions that actually help you hire well. But also, like my business partner Dan and I, we are both English majors. You know, we're liberal arts and sciences people who did self-teach ourselves. We have education, but most of that education comes out of, well, all of the technical education happens outside of the traditional university context. And most of it happens in the span of day-to-day life building real things. And that's what we want to hire people to do, is to build real things, to do what we're doing. So the best hiring process for us is the one that allows us to know how are you going to do at the job we're hiring you to do. So because we think that people live coding the thing that we want them to do is actually not very useful, what we end up primarily focusing on is things that people can do live, which is talk and think and answer questions and review code. So one of my favorite things that I came up with was I show every applicant some code and I say, if a junior programmer gave you this code, tell me how you'd code review it. And I usually say, what does it do first? So I usually say, what does this code do? And what would you change about it? And so we're seeing things like attention to detail. We're seeing things like people's comprehension of something. We're seeing how people understand common refactoring patterns and stuff like that. So that's really helpful. We also ask common questions about things that we've run into recently that were complicated or annoying challenges. One is, let's say you need to make X and Y change in Nginx. Where do you go to do it? Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't know how to do that particular thing, you don't get the job. But if you can just rattle it off, that lets me know that that's something you have a lot of day-to-day experience working with. And so what we try to do is think through some long-running things, but a lot of recent things. Within the last 6 months, what are some challenges that we've run into? And then ask questions that basically give the opportunity for someone to show whether they have A, experience with the thing, but if not, then B, the ability to reason about it and ask good questions. And then finally, C, the ability to tell the truth when they don't know something. And so we're really trying to get the sense of who someone's like as a person, how do they handle things that they don't know, and what do they actually know? Again, no linked lists on whiteboards. We don't have programming challenges live. Sometimes we've done take-home code challenges. We would love to see people's existing code. We look at people's open source code, but we actually ask them to bring their own code as well so we can see what it looks like. Because a lot of times people's favorite code that they've written isn't open source, and we don't want to only privilege people who've done open source work. But of course, we look at that if they have it. And yeah, it's mainly about having a conversation with someone and seeing how they approach challenges and what kind of experiences and thinking do they have when they're dealing with things where they don't 100% understand the circumstance that they're dealing with. We want self-starters, self-teachers, that type of folk, more than we want people who know everything. Because first of all, nobody knows everything. And second of all, the people who think they know everything are usually the least flexible. And we always need to flex in our industry. We always need to flex in our particular workspace. And so we need people that are that way. And then, of course, we care about a lot of non-technical things. We care very much about how people interact with other people and how kind they are and what they care about in their lives. And so we try to ask questions that expose those sorts of things. So yeah, that's... I think there's probably more we could talk about with regard to hiring, but in terms of the specific questions about testing assignments and all that kind of stuff, that's what we're trying to do, is really have a more practical hands-on sense of what your ability to do the job that we actually do day to day would look like. I hope that helps. If you like these, make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell, all that kind of stuff that all the YouTubers ask you to do. It actually matters and helps. And if you got questions, leave them as comments on this one, or hit me up on Twitter at StaufferMatt, and hopefully we'll queue up for next week's. Thanks, and see y'all later.